Beginning from today, we will start our class on the benefits of the Vajra Guru Mantra. I think it will take us 2 days to complete this class, today and tomorrow. Why do we need to study the benefits of the Vajra Guru Mantra? In the past 2 days, Khenpo Lodro had given the classes to the Tibetan Dromos and Lamas on this particular text, and many of them made the aspiration to chant the Padmasambhava Mantra for 100,000 times. Many of you probably also heard of it, and many told me that they want to chant it as well. So I thought to myself, well, maybe I should translate this text into Chinese language as well. Because previously I requested Khenpo Lodro to give teachings on this. And then since many of you asked me whether you should also chant it, so I looked into this text, and then I realized that this text looked very familiar, and I probably had already translated it. And when I look back into the whole translation, apparently I had already finished translating it over 10 years ago, back in 2009. It was the translation I did right after we studied the White Lotus, the 7-line prayer. For that reason, I don't need to translate it again. And in the next 2 days, I will be giving this teaching to all of you. If you also want to make the aspiration to chant, for example, how many times, and then you can submit the number. In terms of the time limit, it is from now till the Parinirvana anniversary of Guru Rinpoche, which is within 3 months. Many of you probably chant rather much slower than the Tibetan Dromos and Lamas, but I think it would be the best for you to chant it nevertheless. If you can chant for 10,000 times, that's good. If you can chant for 100,000 times, that would be even better. Nowadays, there are different kinds of platforms that we have, and it's very difficult to get the accurate number. For that reason, it would be the best for you to just submit the number to your groups. Today we will talk about the benefits of the Vajra Guru Mantra, which is really necessary in this degenerated age. The sentient beings are burdened with loads of afflictions and all kinds of earth, water, fire, and wind related catastrophes happening all over the world as well. For that reason, it is the best for us to supplicate to Padmasambhava, who is the one that is the essence of the Buddhas of the 3 times. We need to supplicate him so that he can grant us blessings. That is why I would like to give you the teachings on this particular text as well. Apparently, there are 2 aspects of this text. The first aspect of this text is about the benefits of the Vajra Guru Mantra, and then the second half of the text is an explanation of all the 12 syllables of the Vajra Guru Mantra. Later, we will further look at each of the syllables and what they represent. This short text, in fact, is a terma concealed by Padmasambhava. Speaking of Padmasambhava, I'm sure you must be very familiar with him. We should know that he is not a mythical character, nor a character from a folklore. He was a great master who truly appeared in this world throughout the human history. Nowadays, there are people slandering Padmasambhava by saying that, oh, he can't be a real person and he must be a character who only existed in folklore, so on and so forth. But those are not a reasonable explanation at all. He was a person who truly existed throughout history. We can see records of him in historical texts, just like Shakyamuni Buddha and great numbers of the really great people that appeared in this world. They all have the date of birth and date of passing, except that there are different historical records. But in terms of Padmasambhava, the most recognized explanation is that Shantarakshita first came to Tibet. And at that time, because of all the Maras and evil spirits in Tibet were creating lots of obstacles to Shantarakshita to spread the Dharma. That is why Shantarakshita requested Padmasambhava to come to Tibet so that Dharma can be spreaded over here. That is why Padmasambhava came to Tibet and subjugated these Maras and the spirits, and then made a firm foundation for Dharma to flourish in Tibet. So when we look at the timeline, Shantarakshita came to Tibet in 763 CE, and according to some historical books, that since there was a great debate between Buddha Dharma and the Bon tradition, that was the time when Padmasambhava had already came to Tibet. So we can look at the timeline in such a way that back in 770, Padmasambhava had already came to Tibet. There is a text called Samba Buddhism History, or History of Buddhism. It is a very trustworthy source. It was composed by Samba Yishin Jungni. I bought this text when I was still studying in Garze. The author had clearly described the dates and records within that text. How long had Padmasambhava stayed in Tibet then? There are different records still. Some great masters from Junampa would say that he stayed in Tibet for 8 months, some said 110 years, but the most widely recognized timeline is 56 years. So Padmasambhava stayed in Tibet for 56 years. Within that time period, he went to Vesar area, and Ando area, and Kham area. While he was traveling through different areas in Tibet, he concealed various dharmas as well, and he subjugated different spirits, created different gompas for Buddhism, and plant a firm foundation for Dharma to flourish. The gompas, including Samye, and over there 7 people got ordained, and all began from there. Dharma started to flourish. And the root cause for Dharma to flourish is because of Padmasambhava. Without Padmasambhava, the Dharma, including Mahā'ati, cannot flourish all over the world right now. Historians nowadays found out that when they investigate into the whole route of how Padmasambhava came to Tibet, they saw a very clear route. At first, he subjugated the spirits around Yanglarshu and different kinds of spirits around Nepal and so on. After he attained realization of Mahamudra, he used the Purba to subjugate different Maras and spirits over there. The different kinds of spirits, including the earth spirits or the mountain spirits of Tangla Yangshu, on the way to Tibet, he purposely irritated this mountain spirit. He burned some mutton and he kicked over the pot that burned mutton to irritate the spirit, because the spirits really hate the foul smell of burnt animal flesh and animal skin. Nowadays we have lots of barbecue, and barbecue is a way to irritate the earth spirits. That is why in Tibet we have the habit to burn some juniper twigs if milk that we burn. If at times we heat up the milk and they would get boiled and splash over, we would burn some juniper twigs to pacify the earth spirits. Anyhow, Padmasambhava specifically and purposely irritated Tangla Yarshu mountain spirit. I'm not sure if he was the father of the Dakini Wisar or Sarakandro, because Sarakandro's father was also a mountain spirit. Anyhow, that spirit was extremely angry and started to manifest all kinds of threatening signs, including lightning and thunder and so on. Padmasambhava used his threatening mudra and subjugated the spirit. He used various kinds of miraculous performances or miraculous power to call for avalanche and so on. So the spirit then later became a protector over there. In fact, in Tibet, the protectors, the mountain spirits and earth spirits in Tibet are different than the other places because they've been subjugated by Padmasambhava. As long as the practitioner do not irritate them or disturb them, they would definitely help the Buddhist practitioners. In terms of the terma of Padmasambhava, we know that within the teachings of Nyingma, there are two aspects. One aspect is the treasure of teachings, which are the lineage of the tantras, and then the other aspect is the terma. And terma usually are the precious teachings that's been concealed by Padmasambhava. For example, we have a Rinchen Docho, a collection of Rinchen Do, or a collection of terma treasures. It was back in 11th century, or maybe 12th century, the great Turton Sanji Lama, all the way from the 12th century Sanji Lama to the 19th century great Turton, whose name is Dechin Lampa. The Dechin Lampa is not the same Dechin Lampa to the one that we're very familiar with, who is the Turton of Doma Monastery. Rather, was a different Turton. Anyhow, there were over 100 tertons and their terma all being collected into 63 volumes. And it was edited by Gongce Yangco Gyatso as well as Jiangyang Kinsa Wangpo. The over 100 tertons and their termas being collected in one particular collection. So we can see that the great numbers of termas that were concealed by Padmasambhava and then reviewed by the great tertons later on definitely flourish in Tibet. In many different monasteries, such as the monasteries where the different tertons would be the abbot or being over there. There are different liturgies, for example, Yamataka, Vajrakilaya, and all kinds of extensive liturgies. And today, this particular text was reviewed by Karma Limpa. Sometimes in the Amdo or in the Ando accent, we would call Lampa instead of Limpa, but I'm not sure if we should unify it as Lampa or Limpa. Anyhow, Karma Limpa, karma means activity, and Limpa is a symbol or a name for the tertons. There are 5 great tertons of the 5 directions: the Dorji Lampa of the east, Rinchen Limpa of south, and Bama Limpa of the west, Garma Limpa of the north, and in the center it was Sanji Limpa. In terms of the translators, there are 3 great translators, Garwa Bazi and Junri Li Jiangsen, as well as Rang Yi Side. Out of the 3 great translators, the Junri Li Jiangsen was the previous translation of Karma Limpa. Karma Limpa's father was also a great terton. His name is Ninda Sanji. He lived for 125 years. Garma Limpa started to review terma at the age of 15. He traveled to various places to review different termas. Within the Buddhist, the Nyingma history of Buddhism, composed by Dudrum Rinpoche, stated that when he was choosing his consort, he chose the wrong consort, and because of that, his consort conspired to poison him and succeeded in that with someone else. So his death was rather quite unfortunate, but other than that, he truly reviewed great terma and was a great master. At the time or before he passed away, before Karma Limpa passed away, he passed all of his termas to his only disciple, whose name was Ninda Choji. And Ninda Choji passed down the termas only to one disciple at a time for 3 generations, and that was also the prediction given by Karma Limpa before he passed away. Now, the different termas of Karma Limpa, including, for example, the 100 deities of the 100 wrathful and peaceful deities, the 6 bardos, and the Tibetan Book of Dying, a Tibetan Book of Death. He was around the Gompo area of Tibet, and his Dharma is still very much propagated and is flourishing in Amdo and in Kham area. The most popular text of Karma Limpa is mainly the Bardo teachings, and the Tibetan Tibetan Book of Death has been translated into English in 1911. I had seen the text that's translated back then when I was at the museums in the West. Indeed, the Karma Rinpoche's terma is rather quite open, especially when it comes to the Bardo teachings. For example, the liberation upon hearing, and many of those teachings. Today, this particular text is rather very short terma that talks about the merits and benefits of the Vajra Guru Mantra. So let's look at the text. Over here it says that I prostrated to the Guru, the Idam, and the Dakini. Yeshe Tsogyo over here says that I, the lowly woman Yeshe Tsogyo, made a great outer, inner, and sacred mandala offering and humbly ask, Yeshe Tsogyo started to request the Dharma. Yeshe Tsogyo is just like Ananda beside Shakyamuni Buddha. When she was alive, she requested great numbers of Dharma teachings from Padmasambhava. At times of leaving Tibet, Padmasambhava wrote many great termas on golden volumes or yellow paper, and then sealed them with Dakini letters or Dakini language. Nowadays, we see different kinds of terma that's reviewed from sacred mountains, lakes, and even space. It's because of that. Yeshe Tsogyo is because Yeshe Tsogyo requested those teachings. Though Yeshe Tsogyo may appear to be like a common woman, but through her biography, we see that her inner quality is indeed quite great. It is quite unfathomable. For the later generations, whenever we read the biography of hers, we would generate great faith. I know that lots of Westerners, especially Western female practitioners, are quite encouraged and even empowered by the biography of the Dakini Yeshe Tsogyo. Especially when we put her stories and her biographies into the context of the time period, which was over 1,000 years ago. In Tibet, just like all over the world, there was the tendency of take women lightly. So, considering that, a woman such as Yeshe Tsogyo could be so wise and has such great capacities and has such great merits is indeed very encouraging. Whenever we study and whenever I encounter people who study Dakini Yeshe Tsogyo, they indeed praise the qualities that she has and the spirits that she has. And all of those researchers or scholars usually would tell me that the story of Yeshe Tsogyo definitely brings a new way of contemplation and a new way of looking at women, even from the now perspective. Indeed, Dakini Yeshe Tsogyo made all kinds of requests and asked all kinds of questions, and some of the questions are rather quite sharp. Such kinds of questions brings great benefits in requesting Dharma teachings. People around a Dharma teacher, if they can ask sharp questions, if they can request Dharma teachings, like Yeshe Tsogyo, that would would bring great benefits, because their requests would lead to the spreading of precious Dharma. Yeshe Tsogyo over here says that while I make a great outer, inner, and sacred mandala, great outer mandala is the body, and inner is speech, and sacred is mind. And sometimes the outer could be the actual mandala that we make, and the inner mandala is the body mandala, and the sacred mandala is the mandala of great bliss, wisdom. And the body, speech, and mind is the three body mandala that we practiced in the Nyingtik preliminary practices. After making the three mandalas after offering the three mandalas to Padmasambhava, he said that, "O Master Lotus Born, the work you have done for the welfare of all sentient beings here in Tibet is in this and in future lives is vast. No one of such extreme kindness has ever come before, nor shall any come again." This is such an accurate description of the merit of Padmasambhava, because Padmasambhava came to Tibet and subjugated all the Maras and spirits, turned them into protectors, and then spread the Dharma teaching over here in Tibet. For over 1,300 years, we do not see anyone else who made such great contribution to Dharma teachings. And then Yeshe Tsogyo, with her wisdom eye, made observation of it and stated in such a correct way. Throughout history, though, we have Master Tsongkhapa, Longchenpa, and the five great masters of Sakyapa, and the great numbers of masters of Jonampa, Milarepa, Marpalotsawa, and so on and so forth. But none of them has such power as Padmasambhava. Just as Shantarakshita, when he came to Tibet, he really couldn't even build Samye. In the day when he was building Samye with human beings, at night all the ghosts and spirits would destroy all of the constructions that had been done during the day. So we can see that the different spirits and Maras and ghosts roaming about on this part of the land was rather quite powerful. So Shantarakshita couldn't really do anything. He could only request Padmasambhava use his miraculous powers to plant a firm foundation for the Dharma to flourish over here, and we can all see that. For that reason, I think Nyingmapa, and not just Nyingmapa, Gelugpa, or the Chinese Buddhism, Tibetan Buddhism, whatever kinds of schools that we have, as long as the teachings are beneficial to human beings, to our own liberation, then I think the different schools are really of no difference. Throughout history, we can see that Padmasambhava indeed bestowed us great benefits, a great kindness, and the qualities that he had and all the contributions he made had never appeared in any other places or appeared any time later or other than him. Tibetan Buddhism, as well as Buddhism of other places, though well, now that we have Tibetan Buddhism flourishing over here, is because of the great kindness of Padmasambhava and Shantarakshita. people all over the world, the Buddhists all over the world, has opportunities to receive such great Vajrayana teachings is indeed rare. In different places, Buddhism has turned into only symbols, and maybe there are symbols of monasteries and of Buddha statues, but the genuine Dharma teachings are hard to spread. So for that reason, I think Tibetan Buddhism flourishes all over the world and can be kept can be kept without any decline in the snowy land of Tibet. Has all kinds of causes and conditions which are related to Padmasambhava. That is why Yeshe Tokyo stated that though there are great masters, but no one of such extreme kindness has ever come before, nor shall any come again later. We see all kinds of great masters, King Sosam Khenpo and different kinds of masters that appeared in this land. But throughout history, the great masters, though came to this world, but no one can compare to Padmasambhava. I am not praising it because this is my particular school of Buddhism, but I'm stating this because this is simply the history. Yeshe Tokyo continued to say that the practice you have given us are like essential nectar. Though I am a lowly woman, of this I have no doubt. Yeshe Tokyo says that I have no doubt at all. However, sentient beings in the future generations will have profuse thoughts and tremendous aggression. They will be difficult to tame. They would probably have wrong views towards the holy Dharma. And in particular, they will blaspheme the supreme teachings of the sacred mantra. At that time, plague, famine, and war will be widespread amongst sentient beings, and in particular, China, Tibet, and Mongolia will be destroyed like ants' nests. As you may know, if you were to destroy the ants' nests, all the ants would gush out from the destroyed nests because they have nowhere to go. When we look at the world, now, the sentient beings in China, Tibet, and Mongolia, people would all get out. And in terms of the time period, Yeshe Tokyo refers to is that at the time the sentient beings' numbers would decline and they would be affected in such a way. Because of the sentient beings has created all kinds of negative deeds. They are suffering, and the sentient beings, the poor sentient beings are suffering. Let's look at the sentient beings nowadays. The wildfire in Hawaii, apparently there are over 1,000 people reported lost, and over 100 people died. And it is still going on. It is still not put out. There are different descriptions or different reasons being said about the starting of the fire. Also, fire that's going on in Canada and different places. In another part of the world that is over here, we have flood, that many people died from flooding. And another part of the world that is having war currently. So we can see that the sentient beings are indeed not safe, not happy, and they're suffering. In terms of the weather, I really feel the weather is not as good as before. It's not the same at all. When there is sun, I feel that I'm roasting under the sun, and in the past, whenever we would go to the meadows and sunbathing under the sun, it used to be really comfortable. But nowadays, I feel that going out and having those holidays in the summer is not necessarily a very comfortable experience, because I feel that the whole body aches. On the other hand, when it rains, it feels like someone cracked open a hole in the sky and it pours. Whenever we make observation of the weather, of the afflictions of people, when we make observation of the society, all kinds of catastrophes happen. Though that we hear from the media all kinds of propaganda or all kinds of sayings of how we're living happily and so on and so forth, we indeed hear the screams of sentient beings because they're suffering. Yeshe Tsogyal had already predicted such a time, saying that this is a time of terrible suffering that befall on Tibetans. In terms of the future, I really hope that all of you would not go to those readers and have predictions on whatever kinds of menial things that you would encounter in daily life. Because over here, this is a Shudra, this is a place to engage in steady practice of the Dharma, not a place, not a center for predictions, for reading predictions. Nowadays, there are people who, being burnt by hot water on their lips or had a nightmare, they would go to different readers to read their dreams. Around Serta area, there are self-claimed mirror readers. There are a kind of prediction method that is called mirror reading prediction. And nowadays, because people are so drawn to making predictions, there are lots of self-claimed mirror readers. In Dudulin, over here, the Chinese Sangha, there are people that would self-claim that they are good at making predictions. When Ponzo Rinpoche was still with us, he did not like any of those mole predictions or fate-telling or speaking of miraculous powers that they have. Those are the things that he disliked the most. Nowadays, I heard that there are people going around propagating their own names with such titles. Anyhow, the management team is currently talking about how to ask this group of people to leave, or how to make different kinds of regulations. But I think this particular phenomenon really shows that how foolish we are, how people nowadays really are drawn to different kinds of activities, including mole prediction and the readings. They would rely on it only, and if you were to do that, if you were to come to the so-called dakinis or other mole prediction readers, it is not the kind of habit that we agree with. On top of that, different lamas that really enjoy doing all kinds of readings and mole predictions really shows that they're not a good fit to be staying in the Shudra. I don't really want to speak too much of it, but I would like to share some of the information on it. If there are people who don't engage in true steady contemplation and practice and so on and so forth. There are people spreading fear by saying that, oh, this is really the end of the world. If we're reaching the last stage, and human beings are going to be destroyed, and there is going to be more catastrophes next year and the year after. We'll have more obstacles and so on and so forth. If you had spread such rumors, I hope that you can change your speech from today onwards, and then gear your actions to steady contemplation and practice. If you can do that, I can give you another opportunity. If you don't change, then these kinds of people cannot stay here anymore, because the Shudra is a place for you to study. It is not a place for you to speak of all kinds of rumors. People nowadays have the habit to say that, oh, I got this Mo prediction from so-and-so Toku, and I got so-and-so reading. And they would wonder, oh, why did I burn my lips when I drink water? Why did I have a nightmare? Why did I fall from the stairs? Why is it that I did so and so? People kept on asking those from Mo predictions. I think this is very foolish. Now, I've had 2 major operations, and I had not gone to any of those readers to get a Mo prediction. I simply chanted some mantras, and then I did not make my decision on whether I should get the operation through Mo prediction. I simply did a Mo prediction to see whether I should chant this mantra or that mantra. Now we need to use our wisdom to distinguish what we should do. We need to use our wisdom to make decisions on what we need to do. For example, if you already see that there is a tumor, then you know what to do. I had already translated 2 texts on Mo predictions. One is the Mo prediction of Manjushri and the other one of Avalokiteshvara. I can do it, but I think we need to have wisdom, and we need to focus more on the steady contemplation instead of Mo predictions. Yeshe Togyo then continued to say that you have spoken of many ways to remedy these afflictions, but beings in the future will have no time to practice. Now, you had already, so Yeshe Togyo said that while Padmasambhava, you have already given teachings such as the Purba and such as the wrathful Padmasambhava, as well as a great numbers of extensive liturgy, but the beings of the Dark Age are extremely busy, and even if they want to practice, there are all kinds of obstacles. What kinds of obstacles? For example, when we want to practice, there are all kinds of obstacles involved in the conflicts of schools of Buddhism, the conflicts of ethnics, and the conflicts of people having different intentions, and the conflicts of not having sufficient provisions. On top of that, our actions and behaviors are not in accordance to the Dharma, and that leads to the incapacity in starting the Dharma teaching, the Dharma practice, as well as ending them well. At that time, when all the vicious things and all kinds of obstacles are blocking us from practicing the Dharma, the only way to engage in practice is through relying on the mantra of Padmasambhava. So he over here says that So over here, Yeshitaka said those who have a slight inclination towards practice will be beset by powerful obstacles. It means will not get along with one another. Supplies and materials will be insufficient. Such terrible times as these will be extremely difficult to avert. In such times, Guru, what are the benefits of relying solely upon the practice of the Vajra Guru Mantra? For the benefit of the people who have weak intellect in the future, I humbly entreat you to tell us. And then Padmasambhava says that, O Lady of Faith, you who have faith, what you say is absolutely true. In future times, in such future times, that practice will definitely be of short and long-term benefit for sentient beings. Although I have concealed many earth treasures, water treasures, and rock treasures, sky treasures, and so on, which contains unfathomable peace instructions and methods of practice. In degenerated times, it will be terribly difficult for fortunate beings to find the conditions and the circumstances to meet with the teachings. This is a sign of means merit is running out. Now, in terms of earth treasure, it is the treasures that's been hidden in places such as caves. For example, Guru Rinpoche reviewed some of the treasures that's been concealed in caves, like the peaceful practice of the manjushri and purba practice. The places such as the terma that's revealed within water, such as the Vajrasattva practice that we have, was discovered or revealed from a lake. In terms of rock terma, Pontsuk Rinpoche revealed reviewed a curricula liturgy that was from Thimphu. In terms of the sky terma or space terma, it was once that Pontsuk Rinpoche was holding a katak, and he waved that katak in the space. Within a short period of time, we see that Pontsuk Rinpoche hold a very small Buddha statue. Pontsuk Rinpoche was with us. I think Khenpo Deba was also there. And there was another time Pontsuk Rinpoche was practicing Tok offering with all of us, and he waved the katak in space. And then it feels like the Buddha statue just descended from space. Right away, Pontsuk Rinpoche catched it. So there are all different kinds of termas, and the different turtles would reveal them. Now, some of the words are written, some of the words are written in symbols or in the Dakini words, the Dakini language. And not all of the terma or not all of the liturgy would appear, but because of the causes and conditions, then you would be able to write it down, just as some of the translator's notes would be rather quite condensed, but each of the symbols would represent many different meanings. That is why many great Tertons, for example, there are Tertons who are very good at writing, who has such good methods of writing, and then their liturgy would be easy to listen to, and they're very melodious. If the Terton who reviewed those termas are not necessarily good writers, then those liturgy doesn't really sound very beautiful. Now, as a translator, when I translate this text from Tibetan language into Chinese language, language. If my Chinese language is not good enough, then my translation may not be that melodious, so to speak. Similarly, Ponsu Rinpoche used to say that so-and-so tertone is excellent in writing, and the terma that so-and-so tertone wrote is really beautiful. When it comes to Karma Limpa, he's a wonderful tertone, and I believe that those of you who listen to the Liberation upon Hearing, at times of chanting it, people would say that this particular liturgy is so beautiful to listen to, and it is easy to understand as well. Whenever we look at a terma, there are termas that's easy to listen to, and they're beautiful to look at or listen to as well. But not necessarily all of them are like such. It really depends on the tertone as well. There are true tertones, there are charlatan tertones as well. Ponsu Rinpoche composed a text, actually many texts on making observation of tertones. When I just came here, I kept on reading it. I believe it is a text called The Pure Water, The Treasury of the Pure Water. Ponsu Rinpoche also talks about how to make observation of the tertones. In fact, the tertones are quite aware of their capacities. Some of the termas that they review could be very beneficial to the sentient beings if the tertone has quite great power and great activity. On the other hand, there are tertones who review termas, but they're not of any benefits nor harm to the sentient beings. On top of that, there are tertones, the so-called tertones that's been blessed by Maras. In such a way, the so-called termas that they reveal would be harmful to sentient beings. For that reason, we need to be very careful with the teacher that we rely on, especially when we don't have the capacity to observe whether they're the genuine tertone or not. In the past, there were some true tertones who spread Dharma in mainland area, and some charlatan tertones went to mainland as well. But the fake tertones would soon reveal themselves through their actions. Similarly, in terms of tokus, since the Chinese Religious Bureau and all kinds of bureaus that is in charge of distributing certificates to the tokus. Some of the tokus are genuine reincarnations. Some of them are not necessarily so, though that they may have certificates being given by the bureaus. Because we can look at their actions. Some of the so-called tukus probably don't even have the proper actions like a normal Buddhist. I don't necessarily want to speak the faults of the others. I simply want to point it out so that you won't be fooled. Because there are people at the very beginning, they have faith, but their faith can be taken advantage of, and I think that is quite a pity. So we need to use our wisdom to make observation of the teacher that we rely on. I have no jealousy whatsoever. I am not saying this because I want to please the benefactors nor the disciples. This is my wholehearted advice, so that you would not be fooled by the teachers that are not qualified.
虽然当时莲花生大师在这些地方藏有很多的这种修行和仪轨，
Though over here, Padmasambhava said that I have already concealed many treasures in different places, but in degenerated times, the sentient beings do not have those conditions and circumstances to meet those teachings. That's a sign of being's merit is running out. Ponsuk Rinpoche, because of lacking all kinds of causes and conditions, lots of the terma were not reviewed by him. That is really also a sign of the lack of merits of the sentient beings. And Padmasambhava continued to say that, however, in such times as those, this essential Vajra Guru Mantra, if recite with vast bodhicitta aspiration in great sacred places, in monasteries, on the peak of high mountains, and the shores of the vast rivers, in places inhabited by gods, demons, and evil spirits, at the heads of valleys, geophysical junctions, and so on, by ngakpas, by the mantra chanters with unbroken samaya vow, holding monastics, faithful men, women of fine qualities, and the like, however many times, 100, 1,000, 10,000, 100,000, 10 million, 100 million, etc., will bring inconceivable benefits and powers. So you can chant it in your car, you can chant it at your home, you can chant it at whatever place and wherever you would like. Also, whomsoever you are, maybe monastics, maybe lay practitioners, maybe women of fine qualities. Over here, it points out that there are women with different fine qualities, including faith, wisdom, precepts, or fine characteristics. These kinds of people could all chant the mantra of Padmasambhava, and there are inconceivable power and qualities. Now 100, 1,000, 10,000, 100,000, 10 million, 100 million, etc. will bring inconceivable benefits and powers. What's the benefits or effects of it? Countries everywhere will be protected from all plague, famine, warfare, armed violence, poor harvests, bad omens, and evil spells. All kinds of evil signs will be dispelled. That is why we need to chant the Padmasambhava Mantra. When we look at the news nowadays, we see sufferings increasing within human realm. So when you chant the Vajra Guru Mantra, rain will fall on time, harvests and livestock will be excellent, and lands will prosper in this life, future lives, and on the pathway of Bardo, fortunate practitioners will meet me again and again, at best in actuality, or else in visions, and at very least in dreams. Having gradually perfected the levels and paths, there is no doubt that they will join the ranks of male and female awareness holders, the Rinzens, and Ngayabling. There was a story that I would like to share with you. In a really wealthy family, there was one servant. That servant is in charge of herding the cows and goats. This wealthy family usually would invite some great masters, asking them to bestow empowerments and giving Dharma teachings. There is this once that this family invited a great Maha'ati master. a second reincarnation of a great Mahayati master. This servant asked other people to take care of the herding business, and then he himself went to see this great master in the master's tent. The master asked, "Well, what do you need? Why are you coming to me? What do you need?" And the servant said that, "I need Mahayati." And then the Lama asked him again, "What do you really need?" He said that, "I really need Mahayati," though that he doesn't know what Mahayati is. And then the Lama said that, "Okay, then come here." So he said that, "I will give you the Mahayati." And then he recited Om Ahom Benzen Guru Master Hong at the ear side of him, and asked him to chant this wholeheartedly after he returned. For that reason, he practiced under the instruction of that Lama. He chanted this mantra whenever and whatever he's doing, at times of herding, at times of working, at times of even sleeping. That is why he was renowned as Vajra Guru. Locally, he was known as Vajra Guru because he chanted so much. And then later, he told the family, his landlord, saying that, "I dreamt of Pama Guru, and thank you so much for taking care of me, and I shall go now." On the second day, his tent, inside his tent, there appeared rainbows. He was the one who directly sees Pama Guru, the Padmasambhava. There are stories as such and examples as such in Tibet. We can see that even if we don't understand what it means by chanting mantras, just as when we studied the merits of the mantra of Avalokiteshvara, if you were to chant the mantras every day and at all times, then the quality is quite vast. The merits are quite vast. Within our life, we should practice and try our very best wholeheartedly and thoroughly. It is really important to supplicate to Padmasambhava. Every year, I try my best to encourage all of you to chant different Vajra Sattva, to chant the Padmasambhava mantras, such as the wrathful ones and such as the mantra, for over 20 years. And we've studied many different texts of Padmasambhava. At times of chanting the mantra, it's best for you to see the pictures and tankas and so on, or even statues. This would be meaningful if you can chant in such a way, because the mantra has the quality of, for example, people would like you because of your energy field is really good. There are people who don't have very positive energy field, and when people get in touch with them, they don't even want to talk to them. They don't even want to share a room with them. They don't even want to sit with them. If you want to be liked for this lifetime and future lifetimes, you need to chant the Padmasambhava Mantra. On top of that, if you want to obtain food, obtain wealth, when you have a short of food or wealth and enjoyments, you should chant the Padmasambhava Mantra as well, because all of those food, wealth, and enjoyments would appear effortlessly. Within the termas of Padmasambhava, there are lots of practices of Zambalas, of the wealth deity, because they are of no different than Padmasambhava. After chanting for thousands, 10,000s or more times per day, you will bring others under your influence with your brilliance, and blessings and powers will continuously and unobstructedly obtained. If you want to tame the others, if you want to be able to give blessings to the others, you need to practice the mantra wholeheartedly and continuously. Many of you who studied for many years and studied the 5G thesis, of course, it's really important to study it, but what's really important is to have your own mind merged with the Lama's mind or the deity's mind and merged with the protector's mind. If you were to only have the knowledge but not have any of the practice, it would be very difficult for you to benefit sentient beings and propagate the Dharma. You need to tame your own mind. If you don't tame your own mind, the more you study, the more you'll be like Devadatta. So we need to practice to tame our mind so that our mind would be one with the Lama, would be one with the deity, would be one with Padmasambhava, and then your mind would be moist by the blessings of Padmasambhava and be moist by the power of Dharma. In such a way, whatever kinds of obstacles or favorable conditions that occurs in your life could be transformed onto the path of enlightenment. And at that time, once you're truly being one with the Dharma, even a joke told by you, other people would really like it and accept it. And then you can benefit sentient beings. In this day and life, in this day and time, simply by relying on faith is difficult. If you were to rely only on theory, yet you have no realization, it's very difficult for you to propagate Dharma and benefit sentient beings. Not only that, your own practice would not go smoothly. For that reason, we need to practice. We need to chant for 100,000 thousands of times and 100,000 times. If you perform 100,000, 10 million or more recitations, the three worlds will come under your power. The three levels of existence will fall under your glorious sway. Gods and spirits will be at your bidding, and 4 modes of enlightened activity will be accomplished without hindrance, and you will be able to bring immeasurable benefits to all sentient beings in whatever ways are needed. In the fall time, usually in the fall time, we have this tradition of studying Vajrayana teachings all together. Around that time, I think it would be the best for us to study the way of entering the way of Mahayana. This is the text, but I think this text would be a bit too much to finish within a month of time. For that reason, we will study half of it, and then maybe the next year another half of it. I think it would be good. And we have some extra time to study the mantra of Padmasambhava and the qualities of Padmasambhava and the supplications and so on. In this time, I think it would be the best preparation for us to engage in retreat, because the retreat is really important. During retreat time, I think some Khenpos and Khenpos and some people tend to roam about outside. They would travel around or go to different teachers. This is quite a pity, because the opportunities as such to engage in group retreats practice is quite rare. I'm not stopping you, but I would like to share with you what I did back then. I relied on Guru Rinpoche at that time. I relied on Guru Rinpoche for 20 years, and around that time, there were many empowerments bestowed by other lamas around this area as well. I really wanted to go around and listen to different teachings given by other teachers as well, but I didn't. For example, I didn't even receive any of the oral transmissions from Khenpo Deba. The commentary made by Khenpo Deba on the treasury of wish-fulfilling jewel, and a commentary on the treasury of pith instructions, as well as the commentary on the aspiration for the Dharma to flourish. There were about 3 to 4 really extensive commentaries commentaries composed by Khenpo Deba, but I requested all of them, but I did not receive even one of those oral transmissions. And people would ask me, since you have such great faith to Khenpo Deba and you requested the teachings, why don't you have oral transmissions? I told them that, well, on one hand, it was because I was teaching the Han Chinese, and I worry that if I were to go to different places, their mind and their progress of listening would be influenced. I don't want to do that. On the other, while I was relying on the teacher, on my Lama, though that there are different teachers giving different oral transmissions and empowerments, but I kept on thinking that my mind needs to be stable. My mind should not waver here and there because I heard this and that. I only want to listen to the teachings from the teacher that I have the most faith. Though sometimes I wanted to receive more teachings, but I really didn't go anywhere else at all. There was a period of time when my health was not good, and we were practicing together in retreat and supplicated and practiced supplication. I really feel that the energy and the power of blessings are different. That is why I really hope that we can chant more of this practice, or practice more together. To continue, over here, Padmasambhava says that if you can do 30 million, 70 million, or more recitations, you will never be separated from Buddhas of the 3 times, nor never apart from me. The 8 classes of gods and spirits will obey your orders, praise your words, and accomplish whatever task you entrust them. I remember that most of the chantings and practices within the words of my perfect teacher, or the preliminary practices, usually is about a few tens of thousands. But for the mantra of Padmasambhava, the requirement within preliminary practice is 10 million. This time, since we requested all of you to practice the Padmasambhava Mantra, I contemplated and I was thinking to myself if I should also make the aspiration to finish chanting 100,000 times. I'm sure you also would have such kind of, you also probably feel that there are a lot of mantras to be finished. Indeed, when it comes to practicing virtuous deeds, our powers are rather quite weak. When I was translating the first volume of the Wish-Fulfilling Treasury, Lama one day from my monastery came to me and made the aspiration that I would like to chant 100 million times of Amitabha Mantra. Please grant blessings, or please bless my mala. I asked him, how many mantras have you finished? He said that, well, I made the aspiration to finish chanting 100 million times of Padmasambhava Mantra in front of Khenpo Lashik. That was around the 70s or the 80s, and I have already completed it. And then later, I made the aspiration in front of my Lama for 100 million times of Mani Mantra, as well as 10 million times of Manjushri Mantra. Also, I've already completed it. I completed many of the mantras. Now I would like to start 100 million times of Amitabha Mantra. I think I should be okay. He is around my age. He's not 70 yet. We are the same human being. We're both human beings, and we're around the same age. Yet there are people who had already accumulated probably billions of mantras, hundreds of millions of mantras together. But when it comes to us, when we need to make aspiration to chant for 100,000 times, we would wonder whether we would be able to finish it. So we can see that we definitely have a gap. There is a gap between us, but we can do it. We should be able to do it. Over here, Padmasambhava says that if you can chant so-and-so times, then the Buddhas of 3 times will never depart from you. The classes of gods and spirits will obey your orders, praise your words, and accomplish whatever task you entrust them. The people's powers are very much different. There are people who can accomplish whatever they wish for, and there are people who can't even accomplish a little bit. And the difference is between whether we have blessings and we have the 8 classes and the God spirits that is our orders. At best, practitioners will attain the rainbow body, failing that at the time of death, mother and child luminosities will meet. This is taught in the Mahāti teachings. The recognized self-luminosity will merge with the mother luminosity. At that moment, one will right away attain liberation when the mother and child luminosity will meet. And at the very least, they will see me in the bardo, and all their perceptions that have been having been liberated into their essential nature, they will be reborn in Ngaya Bling and accomplish immeasurable benefits for sentient beings. Well, think about if you want to make the aspiration. But I really encourage you, for those of you who don't have other specific tasks, it will be the best for you to finish 100,000 times of this mantra. Now we have 3 months. Within 3 months, if you can finish about 100,000 times, that would be really wonderful. For each of the day, you could probably chant about 5,000 times, and then you can finish it. If you can chant together with us, that would be really wonderful. I know that lots of the Tibetans had already made the aspiration. If you would like to expand your merit, and if you would like to have the drop of your own merit to be merged in the ocean of the merits of all of us, it would be the best for you to chant it together. It would be the best to make the aspiration. Now, that if you can chant for over 100,000 times, because many people this time would supplicate to Padmasambhava, then lots of the catastrophes and even obstacles that is right before our eyes would be reverted, would be changed. I really want to talk a little more of it. Maybe we should stop here today. The previous parts are about the benefits and qualities of the Vajra Guru Mantra. Later, we will talk about the explanations of each syllables, and tomorrow we'll talk about that. Chubum zolen drova drva